And I remember just looking at my phone, and I just locked up due to anxiety. Like I locked up and sat down on the floor. From there, I rolled over to my side. Getting anxiety thinking about it now, and I just turned off my phone. And I'm just like, maybe everything will go away if I turn off my phone. Everything will disappear. It's just me. It's just me. It's just me here. I'm just. And I laid there probably for like 45 minutes just on the floor of this home. I turned back on my phone and I'm just like, I'm going to have to respond at some point. Then I was like, no. So I just blocked him. But then I was like, what if he calls my manager? So I blocked my manager. Then I'm like, I can't never not talk to my manager. But then we called one of my employees. I blocked every single employee at the company. And I was like, I'm probably going to have to quit at this point. I just sent the company an email and I quit. That was it. Didn't talk to anybody, just quit, blocked everybody, went on about my day. Have you ever been like eating a cookie and you're like, okay, this is pretty good, but something is just a little bit off. I can't quite put my finger on it. And you ask the restaurant and they're like, we make our cookies with almond milk. And you're like, that's it. Almond milk. I knew something was slightly off. I just couldn't quite put my finger on it. That's kind of how I felt my entire life, right? I looked right. I did the right things, but something was just off. Like I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Like social interactions were like super awkward. Um, like I literally have this internal dialogue, monologue with myself, just saying, "Hey, just act like a normal person." What would a normal person do in the situation? They'd make eye contact. They'd speak. They'd greet the person. They'd ask how they're doing. Even though in my head I don't want to do any of that. Um, uh, I have crippling anxiety at times. When I say crippling anxiety, literally, like, I'll tell the story, like, crippling, freezing, um, balling up and, like, going to the ground, um, anxiety in social situations, um, like, inability to communicate just basic thoughts and feelings sometimes. And sometimes, like, I would build up, like, this like rage inside of my body because I can't communicate just normal things. Um, I'll give you an example. Like last week, I was at this restaurant, like right in my neighborhood, and so I go there like once a week. And there was a gentleman already at the counter. I walk. No, there was a guy that walked in front of me too. He was unfamiliar with the location, I guess, so he went to the side to check out the menu like a courteous gentleman would. And so I just got in line behind the person at the counter. And when he was finished his order, the guy at the register was like, "Okay, he's next. He not being me." And I was like, "Oh no, I'm here and I'm just picking up an order." And I like pointed the orders back there. This is the interaction that should take like 5, 10 seconds. Hey, my name's David. Okay, this says David. Give me your order. But he's like, no, he was here first. And I couldn't, for whatever reason, in that situation, just sometimes like when there's more than two people, more than one person to talk to, for some reason, like it's very hard for me to articulate my thoughts. So I couldn't say. I wanted to say to the gentleman, "Well, do you mind if I just grab an order?" I wanted to say to the guy at the register, "Hey, he actually was just to the side." And I just couldn't get it out of my head. I went into this rage. Like I went from like 0 to like 98. Um, and sometimes I'll go to 100 and it'll come out verbally the rage. But yeah, I just like turned around and looked at the corner and just had to brace myself because I wanted to like jump over the counter and like break the guy's face, but I'm like, huh. you like this restaurant, you probably won't be able to eat here going forward if you assault an employee. And then, oh yeah, also that may be like illegal. But yeah, those are some of the crazy thoughts that go on in my head. And so, where am I going with this? So I have Asperger's, which is a high functioning form of autism. And just finding that out like snapped so many things together in place in my life. It's like, oh, that is it. That's why I cannot mesh in social interactions with people. I mean, I'll point this out to you guys. Like, so going back to elementary school, like there's for my entire days at elementary school, there's one person I still keep in touch with to this day. You may think, okay, elementary school, a long time ago, not that big a deal. Middle school, zero. High school, zero from the exact same class. There was a guy behind me, one grade behind me, who I'm still friends with, and like I would think I was an average dude, right? I mean, I played sports. I was pretty decent. I was like I think was yeah, I think I was the captain my senior year of the soccer team. I ran track. Like I said, I was athletic, relatively smart. I went to the United States Naval Academy, but I just had this uncanny ability, like not to connect with people, and it was just weird. And so you as you go through life, like you form this protective shell around you. And I look back and I'm like, is it a chicken or egg thing? Was I a loner because I couldn't connect, or I couldn't connect? Is that what made me a loner? Um, like I said, you form this protective like shell around yourself. But the thing about like a shell is like that shell like cracks, right? Um, and I've gone through like some rough stretches of my life. When I talk about rough, like think about like the car doors that open like the opposite way. Periods where you think about that, and I look back and I'm like, man, if I didn't have such a great support system, mother, father, sister, brother, loving, now a wife, like I often wonder, like where could I potentially ended up? And I look at a situation where folks, if I go to the aforementioned like rage scenario, where may not, folks may go to that 98, 99, 100 thing, like I often don't, or where folks don't have the person where they can look towards, like, hey, I don't care about what happens to me, but what is my mother or father going to think? What's my brother going to think? What is my spouse going to think if I'm no longer here? So yeah, I wanted to use this platform, just share some awareness, share my story, because there may be people out there who's kind of going through the same thing I'm going with, or you may know folks that are going through this, or you're like, hey, why is that person um, like this? So yeah, so I'm gonna read this definition for you. This is the Mayo Clinic. People with high functioning autism, Asperger's, often have difficulty with social situations and they may not be able to understand the perspectives and feelings of others. However, their language and cognitive skills are often typical. People with the condition may also engage in specific, repetitive body movements. They often have an orientation towards detail and an interest in systemizing. They can also come across as that which can come across as an obsession. Sorry, I can't read. I don't know what's going with that. Some may show remarkable faculty and facility spelled the same way. What do you know? In a narrowly focused and unusually non-social areas such as baseball statistics and train schedules. Maybe my thing is mortgage guidelines. Because like my love for that, we'll get to it in this tale. Is actually what drew me to here was yeah, which eventually drew me to the podcast. But Yeah, man. Like I said, I didn't have many friends growing up, and it was just weird. Like I didn't know what I was doing wrong. It's like okay, like you talk to somebody, and it's like okay, what are these people doing? Like do what these people are doing. You know, the normal kids are doing. You know, talk, ask how folks are doing. I don't know what it was. I couldn't I couldn't connect with people at all. I went to college, uh, like say the United States Naval Academy, and like the first year. So this is my first year, kind of like out of my element on my own. And so my first year, you're a freshman. It's kind of like military environment, so it's kind of like strict on as a freshman. And like I kept getting like in trouble. Like I didn't even know why. And to be honest with you, I think it was just a lot of elitism. Racist white folks in general. I think like I don't know, maybe 95% of the school is white. I mean, positive. Some of that was that, but it was just like another situation. Like I didn't know like what I was doing wrong because I didn't talk to a lot of folks. So like I couldn't have been this cancer or this bad person. Honestly, I almost got kicked out of school, and for whatever reason, they do these peer reviews where you get ranked by your peers, right? So I wasn't in any of these cliques. I just kind of did my own uh, thing, and so you rank the people, and so you can write whatever you want. Like you can write then there are a bunch of character traits, and like folks would put all these negative things about me, and like I'm like, what is going on? I've never even talked to you. We probably don't even know my first name. Everyone calls folks by their last name. Like, how are you assigning all these negative character traits to me, who is not really even doing anything? Like, I don't know. Sometimes people thought I was like arrogant, or I don't know. But so there was that. But then there was like like honestly stereotypical things that probably white people would say about black people that don't know them, because I really didn't care one bit to like interact with a bunch of folks. I was just, hey, I'm here to do my thing and get through life. Graduated, graduated, and then I went to the military. And so the military was interesting for me because, and so when I get to this, I'll talk about a bunch of these moments where I kind of flamed out or had these spectacular events. Couldn't really keep a job. But yeah, it was good because I don't know, the military was like structured. Excuse me. And so it was like, okay, you do this. People listen to what you say as long as you're not a jerk. Um, I'm very like regimented. So I know it was fine. It worked out for me. As far as the military, but I think once I got out, um, yeah, that's where things. When if I look back, that's where things kind of like, for lack of a better term, kind of picked up. Yeah. So like, was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. I'm from the D.C. area. D.C. Fort Washington, D.C. is where I lived. And I moved back to the D.C. area, and of course, my parents were like, "Hey, you can stay with us until you kind of get your feet, because you haven't been in the area in 5 years." Oh, and by the way, in that entire 5 years in Norfolk, yeah, I didn't really even visit anybody. Like it was cool to me. It was nice. It was nice just being away from folks and not having the threat, whatever the threat is, of folks coming to visit you. Like I don't think my so I went home a couple of times. I think my parents may have come to visit me one time, my brother and sister, just because I didn't invite anybody. I didn't want anybody to come see me. So I got home and moved out to Rockville, right outside of DC, and the anxiety just every day the anxiety just hit me, and it was just like I didn't know why. It was like I was scared of my friends coming to visit me. I was terrified. I was terrified of them asking me to come hang out with them. Like my like the friends I knew since I was a little kid, right? And so these are kids I knew since I was a kid, right? Um, and so I was just my first thing, like after my first month home, I started plotting. I gotta leave. I gotta leave the DMV, and I immediately started looking for jobs that were at least a flight away. And I wanted to move to Miami. I ended up getting a job in Memphis, Tennessee. Um, and so was there working at this warehouse, and that was actually was in. I lived in Memphis, Tennessee, Olive Branch, Mississippi, right across the border. It was like the perfect environment. It was just a warehouse job. There's like 40 people in the facility, and things were like relatively smooth. I knew nobody there. There was actually a young lady in HR who I think I had a fondness too, but of course I didn't know how to how to share my feelings or do anything like that. I think at one point, ironically, I think she like invited me um, to dinner or something, and then like I'm so awkward, I didn't know what to do or something like that. But that's a story for another day. Um, yeah, so it was cool, man. So I was like, yeah, I mean, so it was great. So my entire life consisted of going to work, going home, going to work, going home, eating, and just this cycle. And I go to the gym as well. That was my entire life, and it was great because I didn't really know anybody. There was no fear of anybody inviting me to do something. There was no fear of running into coworkers. Interestingly enough, um, I did try to go out once, and I went down to Bill Street. You may know that, like in Memphis, it's like their the New Orleans, whatever the Mardi Gras Street is, a little smaller version of that. And it's weird because I was like petrified that a coworker would see me. Why? Like they're like, why was I so petrified a coworker would see me? I don't know, but I was. That's like the one time I went out, and I didn't go out again. And that's so like after month like 7 of the job, going back to the rage, like an employee said something to me out of pocket. And like I said, usually I get to 98. I got to like 99. And I said something back. And he said something back. And I was like, this is going to end in an altercation. But I was self aware. And so I called one of my coworkers because I was like, I need to let this rage. I need to let this out of my body. Like I don't know where they do. I don't know, like letting some air out of the tire. I don't know, so it won't pop or something like that. And so I called him, and it worked. And I was like, thank goodness, because like I was about to put hands on this guy. And so the next day I'm at work, and my manager's like, hey, such and such called HR, and they said you threatened to assault an employee and do all this stuff. And I was like, okay, that's what we're doing. Like we're that's what we're doing. I guess you're trying to come from my spot. I don't know. And so at that very moment, I was just like, you know, emotions built up in me, and I was just like, I don't think I want to work anymore. And I didn't say it like that, but I quit, and I just left that job. So mind you, I'm in Memphis. I don't know a single person. Um, I don't have any prospects. I've not been looking for a job. Actually, this company recruited me, so I had to pay back $15,000 because I didn't stay there for a year. But now I was just unemployed in Memphis for 4 months, and it was probably some of the best times of my life because going back to financial literacy. So this whole time in the military, I've talked about this. I house hacked my property without my roommate knowing it. I guess it helps when you don't really talk to your roommate or share any intimate details, but he didn't know I owned the place. Um, I didn't spend a bunch of money, so I had a bunch of money like saved up. I think when I got out the military at like 25, I had like 96, $97,000, $96,000 in change saved up. So I was like in I was in no threat of like I needed a job, but I got a place in Memphis. It was super cheap. It was like 750 was the rent, so I had a bunch of money stacked up. But yeah, my life I loved it because it was like I stay in the house, I go to the gym, I eat, and this cycle just went on for 4 months. And I was looking for jobs too. I know I couldn't do this forever, but it was such a peaceful moment in my life, not having to talk or interact with people at all. The weirdest thing was that I was just so regimented. I would go to the gym and eat at the exact same time, like every day, to the point people started to know me and started to like do my order, which made me super nervous that folks were getting to kind of like know me at the place. I don't know why. I think people like when people know your name, and so yeah, eventually I got a job. So that was 7 months. Watch these job times of jobs. That was like 7 months. Eventually, via a friend, actually, interestingly enough, from the Navy. Or no, I found a job in Dallas, and I knew a friend from the Navy who was there and gave me the thumbs up because I was kind of scared to move down south. And so, worked for a company, JB Hunt, for a little bit there. But I hated it, man. They were just it was just too much like interaction with people. There was just too much interaction with folks. Um, and so eventually I got into the mortgage industry. Oddly enough, as a loan officer, an outbound sales position, because they called me and reached out to me. And I always had a passion for real estate. Like I would just I scroll Zillow's, I think Zillow and Redfin. Truly, it was what was popping back then for like hours at a time a day. So I was like, huh, I think this is a good fit for me. And so back to as a loan officer, they didn't really tell me you had to make all these sales calls. You assume you get a bunch of inbound leads and all this stuff, and so it didn't really work like that. So I was like, okay, how am I going to work this? Because I got to start calling people, because they aren't going to send me leads. So I was like, what can I do? What can I do? Because I'm not going to pick up the phone and call anybody. I'm petrified to call a stranger. And so I was like, LinkedIn. So this is like 2017. So I put together this system where every morning at about 5:30 to like 6:30, I would just go on LinkedIn. I would look up realtors in my area, and I would just send them a message. I would change a little bit of things, but I would send them a message. I would send like 50, 60 messages every single morning. This over the course of like 2, 3 months. Um, and eventually people would reach out to me. And so I was able to coordinate this whole thing without even picking up the phone. I was able to coordinate and connect with realtors. And so I actually ended up getting a bunch of leads and stuff. And about 4 months in, I had this one file. It was a guy that was in the. That's the first time I had some adversity. I had this one file where a guy who I'm not gonna get his whole story, but he lied about something, so the file went down in flames. And it was a referral from a realtor who was kind of was doing some business. I was like, this is a great opportunity for me. And so I texted him and was like, hey, the file went awry and this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. And he called me and I was like, is he mad? Is he who's is he, I don't know. Like, and so of course I didn't pick up the phone. I just texted him back, like, hey, text him back. And he called me again and I texted him back. And I just shut down. So interesting enough, at the time I had a fiance, and I was in this spec house. So these like essentially model homes that are built but aren't sold yet. And I remember just looking at my phone, and I just locked up due to anxiety. Like I locked up and sat down on the floor. From there, I rolled over to my side. Getting anxiety thinking about it now. And I just turned off my phone. And I'm just like, maybe everything will go away if I turn off my phone. Everything will disappear. It's just me. It's just me. It's just me here. And I laid there probably for like 45 minutes just on the floor of this home. I turned back on my phone and I'm just like, I'm going to have to respond at some point. Then I was like, no. So I just blocked him. But then I was like, what if he calls my manager? So I blocked my manager. Then I'm like, I can't never not talk to my manager. But then we called one of my employees. I blocked every single employee at the company. And I was like, I'm probably going to have to quit at this point. I just sent the company an email and I quit. That was it. Didn't talk to anybody, just quit, blocked everybody, went on about my day. I can't remember my interaction with my wife. I don't remember telling her anything. I remember telling her that I had another job I was looking at. Going back to the LinkedIn thing, folks have been reaching out to me on LinkedIn, so I was able to somehow coordinate another job. I sort of told my wife what happened because my manager ended up calling her like 3 4 days later. I guess they didn't see my email. I don't know. They're like, "Hey, we're just checking in. We haven't heard from Dave in like 4 days. What's going on?" Um, yeah, and so you'll see, I keep getting these jobs because once again, like I was I knew how to act and play a person. Like I knew all the things to do to interview well. These are what people do. These are the traits people have. These are how you interact with somebody in an interview, and show that you're a team player. I could do all that stuff. I was the best interview for like I give you the best 45, 60 minute interview, and I would just be spent after those interviews. So I was just playing. I was just acting like a great person. So I got a job at Wells Fargo. I was there for a year. Um, and I didn't really with them, but I would just wear out my welcome in my head. Just it just became so draining to interact with the same people, asking you questions, what's going on, and so I was there for a year. Got a job over at ended up getting a job over at Chase, because like I said, I could do the job pretty well, so I could show them numbers and stuff. But I would just leave these jobs. It was weird because I didn't have to show. I would get these jobs where I didn't have to show like references and stuff like that. It was just look at the numbers. And so I was actually at Chase for like 3 years, and I was doing pretty well. Like I was doing it. I was acting like a good person. And I think one misconception, at least with me, it's folks that get a lot of social anxiety, is that you don't like to be around other people. I like to be around people. I like to watch people and people watch. Sometimes I just don't like to talk to them, or I like to dictate my own like time talking to folks. And like man, COVID like broke me, man. It yeah, man, COVID COVID broke me. Went into a deep depression. So you're working from home, and so my wife is working from home too. And so the way my home's set up, we have a study downstairs, and I would work upstairs. And I just went into this deep depression. I don't know why. Um, it was this combination of not being around folks, but like my phone being my primary point of contact. So I hated my phone because when it rang, that meant somebody wanted to talk to me. And then I hated my computer because that meant if I got an email, somebody wanted to talk to me. So my routine was I'd start my day, go upstairs, I'd open my computer, I'd see emails, and I'd just delete them if I thought they required me to respond because I was scared of interaction. And I would just put my phone on do not disturb, and I would ball up and just lay on the couch. This is my routine probably for like 2 months straight. I would do this for like an hour and a half. Sometimes I would cry. When I would cry, I would go into another room and cry so my wife wouldn't hear me. I would get myself back together. I'd go downstairs and see how my wife was doing. So when people talk about like how did they not know he was depressed? How did they not know he did? How did they not know he did this or that to himself? Sometimes people are just good at acting and acting like a normal person, putting on that smile. And so eventually my wife could kind of see stuff was going on. Of course, my manager could. So like, I worked for Chase at the time, and a lot of times you hear about big companies like people don't care about their employees. Man, I I really appreciated the way my manager reacted to me talking to them. I actually like cried to him a couple times about things that were going on. My wife, thankfully, works in employee benefits, so I know about EPA, employee EAP, Employee Assistance Program. So I would say if you're struggling with something, check into that because like they had a lot of mental health stuff and like free counseling sessions. I think it was like 10, so I started to do counseling. Um, so I was on my third counseling session at this point, and we were back in the office after COVID at this point. It was like some hybrid situation. I'm not gonna say what happened at work, but something happened. I remember it was around like 10 a.m. So I was like, I think I'm done working here. Went to lunch. So I went to the park. So I would always eat lunch in the park. I loved eating lunch in the park because it was just me. Eat by myself at a picnic table. I sat there, ate my lunch. Turned off my computer, turned off my phone. Once again, I was just at peace with the world. I didn't have to worry about talking to another single person. I had my counseling session later that day. Um, and this is where I kind of get. I'll just say this: I had my counseling session later that day, and my therapist wanted me to check into a mental health place, like what is it, inpatient, wherever you go there and spend an overnight session. She wanted me to go there and do that. That's kind of how um, deep things looked from the outside. But I just knew I was at peace now because I didn't have to go to a job or do anything. So yeah, I didn't take her advice and I left and we never spoke again. But of course, I didn't have a job again once again. Um, and so I had to come home and tell my wife that I just quit, and I told her some of the things that have been going on inside my head. Um, yeah, she was very, very, very supportive. I thank the heavens for that because that could have gone a lot of different ways. Oh, tell this. I'll tell this story first. This is a bad one, then a good one. So my in-laws actually thought that I was like abusive to my wife because they would come over and visit. They're from Mississippi. We're in the Dallas area, and they stay for like 4 or 5 days at a time. And they're great, great people. And like it'd be all good the first 2 days, but like just this anxiety would build up in me for just seeing people and having to have conversations and having to do the how's it going and just it, to the point like after like day 3, 4, I would just become so snippy with my wife. And it was the weirdest thing because right after it happened, I'd be like, why did you do that? I don't know. Like, don't do that again. And I just couldn't help myself. And so they were like, I found out from my wife, they were like, hey, if he's doing this while we're here, what is happening while we're not here? And so it's funny. So I had a talk with I called my wife's dad and just explained to him what happened. It's weird. Um, all the stuff that I said to him is like, it's kind of almost like the textbook of what I'm talking about now. And I was like, hey, it's nothing you're doing, but I get this huge anxiety around people where I just can't function mentally after a couple days. Like I just can't function like a normal person. I can only do the normal person act for a couple of days, but I promise you, like I'm not doing anything to your daughter. Yeah, trust me, I would never touch your daughter. And trust me, your daughter would let you know if I was, and she would not stay with me if I was. She's that type of person. And so here's a lighthearted story. Um, so of course I met my wife online because I can never approach anybody in person. And so I think the way things worked out for us was because even though we connected online, eHarmony, like shout out to them, and we talked for a couple of days online. We chatted. I called her, but by that point where it's like, hey, we should probably be meeting in person by now. I actually had to go out of town for one of my friends' wedding out in Miami. I was yeah, I had to go out of town for a wedding, and so we weren't able to connect then. But we would. So, long story short, we probably talked on the phone for a solid 30 days before we ever met in person. So then we met in person. It was a little bit more natural for me, but of course I was like super awkward, which my wife thought was the cutest thing, and she always jokes on me. I don't know how to end conversations, especially with ladies. The guy is just like, oh, okay, I guess the conversation's over. All right, bye. So but but we're in that moment where it's like, bye, hug, do you lean in for the kiss? I did none of the above. Apparently, I just patted her on the back. It was like, thank you for your time. Um, yeah. So that was my first date with my girlfriend, fiance, and wife at the time. But going back to the whole, so let me go back to the Chase and COVID time period because I was at Chase for like 3 years, and so the LinkedIn thing, you can only do that for so long. I think folks picked up on LinkedIn. So what I did there was I was like, sales realtors, salespeople are a little vain. I created this TV show, Drew Television, Dallas real estate entrepreneurship or ism, and whatever else, Drew. And I created this platform where realtors would come to me because I was interviewing them at this show. So that's how I was able to connect with realtors then. I was always kind of like ahead of the curve with kind of creating these systems for folks to come talk to me. And then during the time frames while I got online, I got on Instagram. I'd actually, my wife always jokes, I had zero. You see me online now. I had zero social media presence at all when she met me. My only picture, it was ironic. It was in this hat, um, down low, like the Black Album cover with Jay Z, so you could barely see my face. That was the only thing I had on Facebook. Was that I didn't post or anything. And then so I started to see stuff online where I was like, oh, there's a bunch of misinformation online. Like, hey, what if I put out some information? So I just started posting stuff, right? And my first like year and a half online, like I was totally anonymous. I was just putting out good content and information. Where I think a lot of folks would have been like, hey, have folks contact you and do all this stuff. I get petrified when people contact me. Most of my stuff, I try to do everything via email, and so yeah, I had no contact information at all. Like people reach out to me like, "Hey, can we work with you?" And I was like, "Oh no, 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 you can't work." Like I probably turned down a lot of business because remember the housing market was on fire during that time frame. But yeah, I had the meltdown. Sorry, going back to the meltdown at Chase. So once again, I was like, man, I need to look for another job. And so I really need a job where there's minimal human interaction. I can't be doing this sales bound, outbound, this sales stuff. And that's how I got into underwriting, right? Because I'd always was like always really liked getting into the details and stuff. As a lender, that's how I kind of made my way, and I knew all this information because I was really really into reading the details and the guidelines. So I got into underwriting because you didn't, and it was a work from home job. Like my company was in San Francisco, I was in Dallas, and so it was the perfect job. Yeah, it was just the perfect job, and I got to do that, and I was actually very very good and very proficient to the point that You just had to work an 8 hour day. I would start my day like almost like 6:30 to be done at like 2:30. And when I started, mind you, they were in San Francisco, so 6:30 was like 4:30 over there. So that also minimized my chances of interacting with people because for the first like 4 hours of the day, um, there wasn't really a lot of people to talk to. Um, yeah, and also it allowed me to kind of do some of the stuff I'm doing now. So kind of creating this real estate referral network, and that's what I started to establish. And I had to get my real estate license in order to do that. And then I don't know, folks started asking me like, "Hey, can we use you as a realtor?" So my intention was actually never to be a realtor and interact with folks. It was just to give folks referrals. But I started looking at the pay splits, and I was like, okay, these people are really want to work with me. Um, I wonder how awkward I am in person. If you worked with me in person, let me know. Was I super awkward? I could feel that I was awkward with folks. With there, yeah. So I took some. I don't know. I took some notes, man. But yeah, man. Just that's my life, man. Crippling anxiety. Um, don't like talking to folks. Like I'm kind of like more at peace now. Like my life as I work from home. Some of the best parts of my day is just the time frame walking my dog because I know I won't have to interact with anybody. Maybe a awkward nod to other folks walking their dogs as well, but that's where I'm at peace. I think I've talked to folks. They always ask me, "What do you do?" And I say, "I walk my dog and I hang out with my wife." Um, yeah, like yeah, that's. I think that's it. That's what drew me to this platform was eventually putting my face online because I did it one day. Of course, I deleted the video like 20 minutes later. Then I did it another video, and I was like, oh, people are like, hey, people are like, hi, and you hear about all the negative stuff on social media. There's a lot of positive people on social media as well. You guys are positive, like so yeah, I thank you every person that's liked or comment, hearted something, share my information. I really genuinely do appreciate that. It means a lot to me because I don't know if you see when I comment, but typically is what I do is I'll post a video or I'll post something at like 7, and I don't look at it at all. Maybe I'll look at lunch to see if the post do respond to comments, and then I'm out. So I'm not really even on social media that much. I'm like the post and ghost because I don't know. I get so nervous every time I post because I'm like, what if nobody likes this post? What if they think I'm an idiot? What if they say something bad or something mean? Um, yeah, I think that's it. I want to share. Sorry, I don't. I'm all over the place. I just want to share my story, my anxiety, um, mental health issues I'm having, and I look back a lot of times. I'm like, what if I had kind of known what I know now, and how would my life have differed? As a kid, it's weird because you're always wondering why nobody they don't dislike you, but why does nobody really like you? You become that loner. It's like why can't I just articulate myself in basic situations? Um, yeah. But yeah, if you've listened this far, thank you very, very, very much. Obviously not your typical episode. Um, I don't know if there's somebody that feels the way I do. I don't know what I could do. You can reach out to me. I would actually very, very much enjoy um, talking to you. Obviously, I'm not a therapist. I don't know what I can do, but sometimes you want to talk to talk to people that are going through the same things that you're going through. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for listening.